Luxor, southern Egypt, a temple that time has not been able to erase. On its walls, reliefs carved 3,000 years ago immortalize a scene in motion, a monumental procession. The stone has recorded every detail with a precision that no photograph of the time could capture. What these walls reveal is the Opet Festival, one of the most important rituals in Egyptian civilization. For almost 5 centuries, this event brought Thebes, the capital of the known world, to a halt. Today, Rising Cycle uses AI technology to bring these stones to life and reveal the lost images of this festival. Let's decipher the meaning and importance of this moment for one of the most enduring civilizations in history. Get ready to step through the time portal in 3, 2, 1. Between 1550 and 1070 BC, time in Egypt was not measured by months, but by the pulse of the river Nile. Life depended on 3 seasons: Akhet, the flood; Pharaoh, the planting; and Shemu, the harvest. The Nile dictated the rules. The dark mud left by the flood created the most fertile soil in the ancient world. And at the height of Akhet, when the waters covered the banks, the Opet Festival was born. More than just a festival, it was a time of new beginnings. While the earth regenerated with the water, the divine power of the Pharaoh needed to be recharged. For the people, the equation was simple. A spiritually renewed Pharaoh was the only guarantee of bountiful harvests and order against chaos. In ancient Egypt, the priests were the managers of an economic powerhouse. The clergy of Amun in Karnak controlled lands, granaries and treasures that rivaled the wealth of the pharaoh himself. At the heart of the sanctuary, where the light did not reach, rested the statue of Amun, the hidden one. The people of Thebes could spend their entire lives without ever seeing the face of their main god. Amun belonged to silence. But at the Opet Festival, the hidden one moved. The statue was placed on the Userhat, the sacred boat made of cedar from Lebanon, and covered in pure gold. With prows in the shape of a ram's head, the deity travelled protected by curtains in a closed cabin. The god was present but remained invisible, an intentional strategy to reinforce his mystery. His will was not seen. It was felt by the rocking of the boat on the shoulders of the porters. Karnak was not just a temple. It was the largest religious complex in the ancient world, encompassing 100 hectares of sanctuaries, colossal columns, and sacred lakes that functioned simultaneously as the official residence of the god Amun-Ra, the state treasury, and the granary of pharaonic power. For more than 1,500 years, no place concentrated so much religious and political influence in Egypt. It was from this point that the procession departed. The sacred boat travelled 2.7 kilometres along a corridor lined by hundreds of Sphinx statues, the avenue of Sphinxes connecting the 2 temples. In some periods, part of the journey was made by the Nile. The procession descended the river before returning to the land route. Whether by water or by land, the destination was the Temple of Luxor, built not to administer or store, but exclusively for the rite. When the gates of Karnak open, Thebes is no longer the same city it was days ago. The banks of the Avenue of the Sphinxes are saturated. Families from distant villages, soldiers on standby, and street vendors vie for space. The air is heavy, saturated with incense and the damp smell of the overflowing Nile. Then gold appears under the scorching sun. 12 purified priests load the Userhat boat. Ahead, the metallic sound of sistros played by priestesses announces that the divine is passing by. And at the centre of it all, Pharaoh. He is not a spectator. He is the living protagonist of the ritual. For the crowd kneeling and shouting petitions, this is the only time of the year when the god Amun moves among them. The procession moves along the 2.5-kilometre avenue of the Sphinxes, a straight line guarded by stone sentries. Along the way, the procession takes strategic breaks at prayer kiosks. It is at these stops that the sacred becomes legal. The boat, still on the shoulders of the priests, begins to sway. For the Egyptians, this was not a human movement, but Amun's response. Land disputes and personal doubts were resolved there. A tilt forward sealed a destiny. Meanwhile, the city celebrates. The state distributes bread and beer in abundance. Musicians, acrobats and dancers turn the route into a mass spectacle. Opet was the biggest social and economic event of the year. Upon arriving at the temple of Luxor, the mood changes dramatically. The noise of the party is left behind. The gates close and access is restricted to the top elite. Pharaoh enters the Holy of Holies alone. In this dark chamber, the central mystery takes place, the ritual fusion with Amun-Ra. The reliefs only show the outside. What happened inside was the empire's best-kept secret. The belief was absolute. Pharaoh entered as a man and left as a god. His divine nature was recharged, legitimizing his right to rule for another cycle. Without this reunion, the pharaoh ruled only as a man. Outside, the party hasn't stopped, but now it takes on a new energy with the return of the transformed pharaoh. The festival could last up to 27 days. It was the period when divine justice was most accessible. Fragments of pottery with questions were handed to the priests, and Amun's verdict, a move to the right or a retreat, had legal and spiritual validity. When the boat finally returned to the silence of Karnak, Thebes returned to its routine. But something had changed. The pharaoh was renewed, the land was ready for planting, and the certainty that the gods still walked among men was renewed. The Opet Festival endured as long as Egypt was Egypt. For 5 centuries, each flood of the Nile brought this renewal. With the arrival of Rome and Christianity, the temples fell silent and the priests left. The festival died, but the walls survived. Today, Luxor's reliefs are more than art. They are the record of an eternal human need to begin again. To look at these stones is to remember that for the ancients, the sacred and the everyday were one and the same. The Nile overflowed, the earth was reborn and order was restored. You've just travelled 3,000 years in a few minutes. The Opet Festival was just one of the secrets that shaped history's most enduring civilization. If this journey down the Nile has fascinated you, leave a like and subscribe. At Rising Cycle, each video is a new portal, and the next one is already opening.